Happy Saturday, Heat fans. This is the Heat Report by Nic Rohloff. We just have one more game remaining in the regular season of the 23-24 season. Miami will enter Sunday, the final day of the season, with a record of 45-36, which is actually tied for the highest they've ever been this year, above 500, and they are entering the final day as the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. I am Nic Rohloff. On today's show, we are going to dive through every single possible outcome for the Miami Heat that occurs on Sunday, with who they would play in the play-in, the playoff, as there is some chances for Miami to get into the top six. We'll have it all. We'll have it covered here on the Heat Report. And make sure you are subscribed to the channel as well, because we will be live breaking down the final game of the year for Miami against the Raptors on Sunday. We will also scoreboard watch to see what else is happening around the association, to see where Miami will end up being in the playoffs. And then we will also have a video outlining a matchup with whoever they play, whether it be in the play-in or the playoff. So we will have you covered in the next 48 hours with everything surrounding the Miami Heat. And if they are in the play-in or playoff, we will be live for those games as well. All right, let's jump into it now, and let's just get right into it. Miami can go between the 5 seed and the 8 seed. Now, the 8 seed is the most likely outcome for Miami. Don't get it twisted, as the Magic play the Bucks, the Pacers play the Hawks, and the Sixers play the Nets. And all three of those teams are favored. The Magic are only 5-point favorites, and then both the Pacers and Sixers are double-digit favorites, just like how Miami is about 15.5, 16-point favorites against the Raptors on Sunday as well. All right, but let's get into it, because there is one possible outcome where Miami gets the 5 seed. Just one. If you're a Marvel watcher, Doctor Strange holding up that one. And here is the situation. The Heat obviously have to win to get the 5 seed. They would also need the Magic to lose to the Bucks. They would need the Pacers to lose to the Hawks and the Sixers to lose to the Nets. So it's pretty self-explanatory. You need to win, and you need the 3 teams that are above you to all lose. And why that is possible? Because, well, for multi-team ties, the tiebreaker goes to the division winner. And obviously, if Miami, who just trails Magic by 1 game in the Southeastern Conference, has the same record, Miami has the tiebreaker by winning 3 of 4 games this year. So if the Heat do have the same record as all Indiana, Sixers, and Magic, they get the top seed out of those 4 teams because they technically win the Southeast Division. So that is the one possible outcome for Miami to get the 5 seed. It's pretty self-explanatory. You need to beat Toronto. You need the 3 teams above you to all lose. Very unlikely, but hey, you never know. That's why you play the games. Before we break down more games and more outcomes in this video, let me know what you think the Heat's seed will end up being. Do you think it will be the 5 seed? Type 5. If you think it's going to be the 6, type the 6. If you think 7, type 7. If you think 8, type 8. Let me know down in the comment section what you think the Heat's seed will end up being after Sunday. All right, let's go into the possible situations where Miami avoids the play-in and is the 6th seed. There are only 2 possible ways Miami gets it. So I'm going to outline the way these things happen. The first way that Miami gets the 6th seed, they would have to win, obviously. The Magic need to lose, and Philadelphia needs to lose. So if the Magic lose to the Bucks, the Sixers lose to the Nets, and Miami wins, the Heat would be the 6th seed, and Indiana would end up being the 5 seed. The second way Miami can get the 6th seed, they need to win. The Sixers can win, but both Orlando and Indiana need to lose. So that's situation number 2. So obviously the Heat need to win. First things first, the Magic need to lose, because that's how the Heat win a bunch of these tiebreakers with Indiana and Philadelphia, is because they would be a division winner. Indiana and Philly are not. And if the Magic and Heat end up with the same record, well, the Heat are that Southeastern division winner. So that's why Orlando needs to lose in every single scenario. And just to simplify things for you Heat fans out there, the number one thing Miami should be rooting for is an Orlando Magic loss and a Miami Heat win. Because even if the Heat do win, but don't get into the 5 or 6 seed, if Orlando loses and even Indiana and Philly win, the Heat will still get the 7th seed, and they will host the Orlando Magic in the play-in game. So the first thing first is Miami root for a win. The next thing that is the most important is the Orlando Magic losing to the Milwaukee Bucks, and I believe Damian Lillard will be playing in that game, even though the Magic are 5-point favorites. We'll keep you updated on that, because the Bucks need to win that game in order to ensure they are the 5 or the 2 seed. Now, maybe they don't care about being the 2 seed because they don't want to play a Miami Heat team potentially in the 2-7 or a Philly team in the 2-7. But I also think it beats them being the 3 seed and having to play a Philly who's in the 6 seed potentially, because that is a real possible outcome. I think Milwaukee will win that game. This is maybe me being optimistic. I'm not so sure Indiana and Philadelphia will lose, but I think the Heat will win. I think the Magic will lose, and that's why I think the most likely outcome for me personally, as I asked you earlier what the outcome you think Miami will have, I think they end up getting the 7th seed, and they will be hosting the Orlando Magic in the play-in game. That's my personal belief. We shall see if that actually prevails. We'll have all the outcomes for Miami to be the 7th seed, and we won't talk much about the 8th seed because it's pretty self-explanatory. If they lose or if all the other teams win, the Heat are going to be the 8th seed. But we'll talk about the different situations where the 7th seed and how those outcomes would affect who they play. But first, we are sponsored by Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Get started today before the play-in and playoffs begin on the hardwood. That is when basketball intensifies. The stars come out to play when the lights are the brightest, and you can make some money based off your hoops knowledge. During April, you can actually win up to 100 times your money by just combining 4 player stat projections, picking more than or less than. You can range it across NHL, MLB, golf, the NBA. You can do it all. UFC 300 is tonight if you're watching on Saturday. You can even take the more than or less than on significant strikes, time in the matches, takedowns. They're offering a Justin Gaethje more than a half a significant strike. That's pretty free to me if you're asking me. So get started today with Prize Picks. You can take easy, quick withdrawals. There's an enormous amount of ways you can play. New specials for returning users, new users. They are the best. Get started today by downloading the app in your app store, code CLNS, or just go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and input code CLNS. Let's get back to the Heat's playoff scenarios, and we'll dive into all of the possible outcomes for Miami to get the 7th seed. So we talked about just one avenue Miami can get the 5 seed. They have to win, and Magic, Pacers, Sixers lose, and the 2 ways they get the 6 seed. The 7th seed is a lot more flexible, and there's actually only 3 ways Miami gets the 7th seed. It's pretty funny that there's only 3. Here's the first one. Miami wins, and like I said, every time Miami has to win. They need the Sixers to lose, and if the Magic and Pacers win. So if Orlando beats Milwaukee, Indiana beats Atlanta, but Brooklyn upsets the Sixers, the Heat will host Philadelphia in the 7-8 play-in game in that first play-in game. Here's the other way Miami gets the 7th seed. If they win, the Sixers lose, but the Pacers also lose, and Orlando wins. So it's another way Miami will host Philadelphia. It's actually pretty simple. If the Heat win and Philly loses, the Heat will no worse than the 7th seed. So if you... It's hard to explain all these things. It really is, and without showing you guys a graphic or anything like that. But the storyline is this. If Miami wins and Orlando loses, they will have the 7th seed hosting the Magic at worst. If Philadelphia loses and Miami wins, well, they will be hosting the Sixers at worst. Now, if the Heat beat the Raptors and both the Sixers and Magic lose, well, that's where you get the 6th seed situation. So the moral of the story is you just root for Orlando and Philly to lose. Indiana, it doesn't really matter because even if Indiana wins, but Philly and Orlando lose, you get the 6. Now, there's that magical situation where Miami gets the 5 if all 3 lose, but you just root for the Magic to lose. And that's the way I'm going to end this discussion because I kind of am confusing myself and I don't even know where I am at this point. I understand every outcome, but it's kind of hard to explain without showing you guys a picture or a graphic or something like that. So here's the moral of the story. Root for Orlando to lose, root for Philly to lose. 5 seed doesn't matter to me, to be honest. Like, I don't care. I'd rather be the 6 seed, to be honest, so we can play New York or Milwaukee in the first round, and then we will get to be on the opposite side of the Boston Celtics bracket. That's how I feel. So I'm just going to root for Orlando and Philly to lose, Miami to win. If one of those two teams loses, the Heat will at least be hosting the 7th seed. If both of them lose, they will be in the top 6, and that's where I'm going to cut off the playoff scenarios on today's video. The last thing we do want to talk about before we head out of here is injury updates on Terry Rozier and Duncan Robinson. Rozier was questionable for the game on Friday against the Raptors. He did not play. I don't know if the Heat will actually play him on Sunday. It's a great question because, listen, is it smarter as the Raptors are completely undermanned and won't be trying because they actually want to lose that game to strengthen their draft position so they don't have to trade that pick, because if it's not in the top 6, well, they don't get their own pick. So I think the Raptors will actually try to tank. And the question is, do you want Rozier to get some reps in and momentum going into the play-in and playoffs with Tyler Hero, Jimmy, and Bam? Or would you rather just have him rest up and be fully healthy for the big games on Tuesday/Wednesday and the following weekend in the postseason? I think that's the one thing that you have to look out for. With Duncan Robinson, I believe he will not play on Sunday, and I think that is a smart decision. Keep Duncan out. When he's ready to return, whether it be in the play-in or the playoff series, bring Duncan back, but bring him off the bench. To me, I think Tyler Hero has cemented himself as a starter the rest of the way, as he started the first 36 games he played this year and then came off the bench in the first 2 games he returned from injury before Rozier and Duncan left, and he went back in the starting lineup. I think 14 will be in that starting 5 for the rest of the way. All right, that will do it for today's show. Make sure you are subscribed. We will have everything covered surrounding the Miami Heat on tomorrow's live show against the Raptors, as well as the video that will follow outlining who the Heat play in their playoff path. One more time, the Heat, in order to get the 6 or 5 seed, need the Magic and Sixers to lose. The Heat need to win. If they want the 5 seed, the Heat need all 3 of Orlando, Indiana, and Philly to lose to get the 5 seed. And the Heat are listed as 16-point favorites against the Raptors, Magic 5-point favorites versus Milwaukee, Pacers 13-point favorites versus the Hawks, and the Sixers are 14.5-point favorites against the Brooklyn Nets. So Vegas is projecting the Heat having to travel to Philadelphia in the 7-8 play-in game. All right, see you guys on tomorrow's live show and video. This is the Heat Report by Chat Sports. I'm Nic Rohloff. Hit that sub button if you want to be covered on everything surrounding the Miami Heat.